Back to Washington now, where a heated exchange over the FBI's handling of the Boston Marathon bombing suspects prior to the attack was one of the major issues there. You're going to recall that the Russians warned us about the older Tsarnaev brother years ago and then dropped the coverage of him in that case because they said they couldn't really find anything on him. Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert asking FBI Director Robert Mueller why nobody looked in that investigation from the FBI at the mosque that the suspect had attended in Boston, which was in fact co-founded by a man who's behind bars for supporting terrorism. Listen to this exchange.
Your facts are not altogether well.
All right, point out specifically.
May I finish my
point out specifically. Sir, if you're going to call me a liar, you need to point out specifically where any facts are wrong.
We went to the mosque. Prior to Boston.
Prior to Boston.
Prior to Boston happening, we were in that mosque talking to imams several months beforehand as part of our outreach efforts.
Were you aware that those mosques were started by al-Moody?
I've answered the question, sir.
You didn't answer the question. Were you aware they were started by al-Moody? You were not.
It was a very uncomfortable day for the FBI director, it appears. And I'm joined now by Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert, Republican and member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you here.
Martha. Thank you.
You know, this is an issue that I think is very important. And I'm curious, you know, sort of what you've thought about him saying that your facts weren't right. And what are you driving at here? You know, what do you think we all need to take away from what happened in Boston in terms of this larger conversation about the NSA?
It's what some of us have been saying for a very long time. This FBI, this Justice Department, this administration has forced the training materials to be purged because CAIR, which is cited by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals as a front organization for the Muslim Brotherhood, they have forced our administration to purge materials that reference anything that might be offensive to the radical Islamists who want to kill us. And so I've been through there, the materials. Michelle Bachmann and I have. We know what's in there. We know what they took out. And you cannot do an adequate investigation of radical Islam if you cannot talk about what radical Islam is, what it believes. And so if you note, the FBI director said, oh, that your facts aren't right. We did go to the mosque. My point was about, did you go to the mosque to investigate the Tsarnaevs? Because that is exactly where they had been going and help with radicalization. And so I get tired of the FBI and this administration saying, well, look, the Russians should have given us more information. The Russians said, here is a radical Islamist that is going to kill people. Yeah. And if I were the Russians and I give this kind of information and we have an FBI that goes out and says, we can't find any indication, they didn't even know the mosque that these brothers were attending was started by a terrorist supporter who's in prison for it.
You know, one of the
things, shocking.
We spoke to Peter King about this yesterday, and one of the things that surprises me is that after the FBI interviewed the Tsarnaev brothers, or the older brother, and decided that there was nothing there, that they weren't concerned, the FBI, you know, it ran out. Their time ran out on these folks. And my question was, wouldn't you, under those circumstances, given the warning by the Russians, be able to continue with this NSA surveillance program to at least keep an eye on their phone lines? And wouldn't any judge on the FISA court, of course, approve that, given the background of the intelligence that we got from Russia? And Peter King said, well, no, not necessarily. They might not have approved it.
Well, if I were the judge and I've approved search warrants, that would be a far more appropriate search warrant to grant to continue with monitoring these, at least the older scenarios, than what they got to go after all the Verizon records. This would be an affidavit that I, as a judge, could accept, given all the facts that we knew from what Russia said. And except, Martha, let me tell you, if you're the FBI and you don't even know these guys are attending a mosque started by a terrorist, then you might not be able to put the proper facts in the affidavit to make it where it would be granted. If they used them, they could.
It is shocking when you think about where the energy is going here. You know, you look at the James Rosen case and the amount of time and effort that went into following, you know, his whereabouts and his phones and his emails, and you wonder, why would he merit that? And a judge signed off on that, right? Why would a judge not sign off on following somebody that we had been tipped off by the Russians to? And I say this not so much to say, you know, you know, mistakes happen in the world. We all understand that. But we
Sure,
want to know
absolutely.
that the process is where it should be, that we're being as efficient as we can be to catch the next guys. And I don't know that we've got that with this program. Do you have confidence that we do?
I absolutely do not. And everything you've said, Martha, is exactly right. How are we going to catch people in the future when a country says this guy's been radicalized, he's going to kill people, and we just kind of do a Barney Fife and say, well, it looks okay to me. I'll leave my one bullet in my pocket. This is no way to protect the country, and you cannot. As one of our own intelligence officers has told me, he said, we have blinded our ability to see our enemy. Thank goodness most Muslims love this country and that are here and they don't want to destroy it. But for heaven's sake, let's at least agree there are radical Islamists that want to bring this place down. And there are people being radicalized in mosques, and the FBI has abandoned the program that they had back after 9/11 that went on for years, brought about dozens of prosecutions. They've abandoned that. They will not even go check a mosque when they find out people have been radicalized
We've had so many concerns about privacy, and the Tsarnaev brothers' privacy was not infringed upon at all, as it turns out, and that turned out to be a big mistake. Congressman Gohmert, thank you very much.
Thanks
Interesting
so much,
exchange
Martha.
that you had, and we
You're
thank